welcome to Smashy Business Daily. I'm Lubna Hamdan
And I am Anika Ellis Baby, and we are here today.
So today we're going to be discussing a big exclusive, Saudi mulls 100% foreign property ownership in Mecca and Medina, according to our sources. And then arrested for corruption is the CEO of AlUla's Royal Commission. He illegally obtained $55.1 million worth of contracts. We'll dig into that later on. And then next up, how to improve your sleep if you're stressed and depressed in Dubai. We speak to sleep expert Julie Mallon. And then coming up tomorrow, will the opening of casinos affect UAE property prices? We speak to Frank Porter's Anwar Nusayba. Stay tuned for his interview tomorrow. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Anghami, Spotify, and please subscribe to Smashy TV. Okay, I think we can officially start the show.
We can.
Monica. I had a Red Bull for breakfast.
Wow, that's extremely healthy and a great push for healthy eating.
Yeah, I'm just full of energy right now. No, you know what? I do worry about my well-being sometimes.
I worry about it too.
You know when you just ask yourself, how am I still alive? How have I survived?
I mean, I haven't reached that, but okay, sure. That's an existential question we ask ourselves.
Anika, are you thinking about buying property this year?
You know, the amount of real estate events I've been to in the past year, the amount of 2023, not 24.
Yeah, sure.
And the amount of Damak, we had an interview with Damak, and we have so many events. It's just, and all they keep talking about is buy property. Don't rent anymore, because it's just the prices are just going to go up.
Yeah.
They just keep saying buy, but then I can't trust them because they own property companies, so why would I trust them?
Right. But would you consider buying property here in the UAE, for example?
Definitely. It's such a booming economy. You can never go wrong because people always will want to shift to Dubai.
Absolutely.
End of the day, they will always want to shift to Dubai. So you will always find someone who wants to rent it out, and you can never not make money on that. Like, at least you might not make a profit, but you can at least break even. When you rent your property, you get something back.
I'm sensing that you're a very responsible person who saves and has the funds to buy property, unlike me.
Well, I'm trying. I'm getting there, emergency fund first, and then 6 months of savings, and then you make your investment choices.
Wow. I feel like I really need to rethink some life choices.
I mean, I'm sure you do it every day.
Starting with my breakfast.
Just make your bed, as who was that guy says? I don't know. There's a guy who goes on, when you wake up every day in the morning, the first thing you should do is make your bed, because it sets your tone of productivity for the rest of your day.
You know these billionaires who say, I became a billionaire because
I woke up at 5 a.m. and my father owns a business.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Or wait, this is my favorite. I came to the UAE with 5 dirhams in my pocket. No, you didn't.
And 5 million in my bank account.
No, you didn't. Exactly. Anyways, so speaking of property, according to our sources, Saudi is considering offering a 100% foreign property ownership in Mecca and Medina to expats. So the new law will allow foreigners to own property in one of the most, or if not the most expensive real estate areas. It's going to be pretty huge. It's following in the UAE's footsteps. It will be, according to our sources, it will be leasehold rights for up to 99 years. So it is following in the UAE's footsteps. It's just one of the laws that the kingdom is pushing to attract expats. Last year, it announced it will provide tax breaks for companies moving their regional headquarters to Riyadh, and that started already January this year, so this month.
Yeah, this was a big push in general. Saudi is making big push to get people to the area, and especially opening up a place like Mecca, Medina. These are considered they're so close to the holy city. They are the holy city, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm pretty sure there are so many people who would want to own property there, who would, and in general, just the idea of Saudi up and coming. There's AlUla, there's the Line project. There's so much that they're doing. So
you know what? It's pretty impressive what Saudi is doing. first announcing, the new alcohol regulations, looking at places like AlUla, for example. It's really fascinating.
And so many people coming down for concerts. I believe there was Bruno Mars, Amr Diab,
Yeah.
Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah. Wait, let's talk about that Vice story that you were mentioning early on.
Yeah, there was a party. This was back in 2022.
Yeah.
So Vice Media according to the Guardian's headline, Vice Media secretly organized a $20 million Saudi government festival, and the government festival was called the Azimuth Music Festival.
When was this? Sometime last year?
This was sometime in 2022, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
The article was published on 1st Feb 2022.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Guardian just loves to hate on the UAE and Saudi,
For sure.
and it really gets to me. But I think one of the shareholders of Vice is
yes. So basically, I remember I've been a long time follower of Vice because I really liked their deep dive investigative method, and then for a while there was a lot of projects like the line, anti-Saudi, talking about all the corruption that's going on and how they're doing so many like these things and how the line project is not feasible at all. And then suddenly I see one day this report that that Vice Media is being acquired, or there's a Saudi shareholder has joined, or something. They've now got some kind of investment or money from Saudi.
We probably should have double-checked that before we started the show.
We probably should have.
It's okay. We're only human.
No. But I'm sure this happened. There's something related to Saudi, getting money from Saudi.
You know what? I'm loving that for Saudi. There's a lot of talk about, and I think we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I think Western media is petrified of Emirati/Saudi ownership of their publications, and I'm just loving it.
It says something about journalism in general, also, like the field itself.
Yeah.
Like a person has to own the business for them to at least consider reporting fairly,
You know what? I just feel like Western media, especially with everything that's happening in Palestine, there is no such thing as objective Western media coverage.
For sure.
They did it with Ukraine when they just ignored the Donbass war, which was going on for 7 years, and nobody cared about it. Then they went big on, putting Zelensky on the cover of Vogue, which was ridiculous. And then, not even covering the ICJ trial, for example.
Oh, yeah, they didn't even screen it.
Yeah, so you know what, Western media, well, I guess the Emiratis and the Saudis are coming for you, and
for sure, it's objectively
and I'm really here for it.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. Speaking of Vice, by the way, I remember just like an interesting story. I remember interviewing Shane Smith, one of the co-founders in Dubai a couple of years back, and it was about, I would say, like, I don't know, 11 a.m. or something, and he instead of a coffee, he asked for a double vodka on the rocks.
Wow.
Shane Smith.
That says a lot about the state
you're just built different. Anyway.
I mean, you're on that path, technically, Red Bull in the morning. That's your breakfast.
No. None of that stuff for me. I'll draw the line at energy drinks. Right. Our second story of the day, we're going big on Saudi today. The CEO of AlUla's Royal Commission, Amr bin Saleh Abdulrahman al-Madani, has been arrested for crimes of abuse of authority and money laundering. That's according to an official source at Nazaha, the kingdom's oversight and anti-corruption authority. So he illegally obtained $55.1 million, which amounts to about 206 million Saudi riyals worth of contracts for the National Talents Company, which he co-owns from the King Abdullah City for Atomic and Renewable Energy before joining the government sector through the help of a relative. So he maintained the ownership in the company while recommending it to the Royal Commission of AlUla, which allowed his company to obtain projects valued at 1.3 million Saudi riyals, which amounts to about $346,000. It's not that big of a number. $346,000.
True,
especially for Saudi and in Saudi. I feel like there's a bit more to the story, but well, we're not going to get into that now, but but I do think it's fascinating to see Saudi crack down on all of this corruption.
For sure, it is. It really sets the precedent for what you can expect. Sure, move your business, move your headquarters, get the tax break, but be careful. Like, don't step on wrong toes. Don't do stupid things.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just cementing, business ethics in the kingdom and another thing to attract investors and
ethical investors.
Attract foreigners to the kingdom. Right. Annika, thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
It was great chatting to you.
I love trashing on capitalism.
As always. Okay, so coming up tomorrow. So right now we're gonna stay tuned. We're gonna put on Julie Malone's interview. She's talking everything sleep. And there are some really interesting facts there, like what is a nappuccino? Apparently, if you want to have a nap, you have a cappuccino, and it helps you go to sleep, apparently.
That's true for me. I drink coffee, I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like a warm cup.
Me too. Apparently, if you do it immediately, you do fall asleep. So, right, that's up next with Julie Malone. Thanks for watching, guys. Are you stressed and sleepless in Dubai? Well, you're not alone. Whether you're a toddler or a top-level CEO, Julie Malone is here to help you get better sleep. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
You're the founder of Nurture to Sleep, and you're also the co-host of the Sleepless in Dubai podcast.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. But before we start, you're going to celebrate your wedding anniversary in a couple of months' time. It'll be 40 years.
It will.
And my question is good sleep the secret to a happy marriage? Is that what it's actually all about? Tell me the secret to such a happy, successful marriage.
I think like anything, there is no secret. And it all comes down to really good communication and honesty. And recognizing and being realistic with your expectations, like the same with sleep. You'll have good sleep and not so good sleep, but that's okay. And you'll have days where you as a couple have a hard time, but that's okay too. And I truly believe, and again, it's the same with sleep, there is such a huge adversity gap at present. And what we have to remind ourselves, though, is that it's only going through that adversity and coming out the other side is our relationship strengthened. So I think that's probably...
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I mean, this is so relatable for so many people. We live in a really fast-paced city, and people in cities don't get as good of a nighttime sleep as people in, living by the countryside. How can we get better sleep in the city, Julie? I know it's not an easy question.
Well, it is an easy question when we are looking at where we're coming from. And also to think, the country actually can be very noisy with lots of different animals.
So rooster wake-ups at 5 a.m.
Yeah. So I think in any environment where we are, there is always going to be challenges to our sleep. But of course, the biggest challenge to our sleep now is that we are a society that is always on 24/7. And, like we've said previously in terms of the next Netflix CEO, when he was appointed, he said, I'm going to wage war on sleep. So all of these challenges are really, really hard to do in finding our way to what works for us as an individual with our sleep.
You know what? I know so many people who don't own TVs in their homes because they were just saying that they were getting addicted to Netflix and binge watching shows. And now that they've given up TV, they sometimes watch things on their laptop or connect their laptops. Yeah, which is worse, but they have, they've really decreased their screen time. So yeah, that's a pretty awful thing to say.
No, it is.
Rage war on sleep.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Now, why it is worse in terms of, not watching the screen from the TV is because with each device, each screen has a different intensity, which is more challenging to our sleep. So, for example, the screen has less intensity of blue light than an iPad, for example, whereas the iPhone has the greatest intensity of blue light.
Wow.
And it's the blue light that really disrupts our natural sleeping rhythm. So that very, very important hormone, the sleep hormone melatonin, that is completely disrupted because of exposure to the screen. Now, again, the screens that we have, particularly here in Dubai, they're just getting bigger and bigger. You know, the TV screen is huge. So again, that amount of blue light that's coming off probably now amounts to the same intensity as an iPad or an iPhone. So we've just got to be very mindful about how is this supporting our sleep. Now, again, I think what is really, really difficult in the world where we're at is that there is more and more information coming out from a neuroscience perspective about the importance of sleep. So that's really piling on the pressure of sleep. So there's all these rules now about, you know, you can't exercise 3 hours before bedtime because your sleep's going to be really shot.
Yeah.
You can't have a heavy meal 3 hours because then your sleep is going to be impacted. But actually, you know, we have to live, and life cannot constantly be compromised.
Life gets in the way, right?
It does. But when we know that, okay, so I'm going to have a meal, for example, I'm going out or I'm having a family meal to celebrate something, there are certain things that we know that we can do. And we often talk about biohacks. And there are definite biohacks that we can do to help people's sleep improve.
Let's talk about a couple of scenarios. Let's say I'm a really stressed out CEO of a company. I'm a high-level exec, and the stress is giving me insomnia or is preventing me to get good, deep sleep. What can I do? A lot of people reach for the sleeping pills. Some people, myself included, guilty, reach for the melatonin gummies, which since our last chat, Julie, a couple of months ago, I stopped doing that.
Excellent.
I think you'd be proud of me.
Very. But it is those small changes.
Yeah.
So it's this conversation, what is so important from this conversation is that even if just one person takes something away that improves their sleep, then that's enough. So it is about educating, but in a way that that information is helpful rather than some dogmatic rule, and not putting people more and more under pressure. So with your very busy CEO, first of all, it's recognizing, really being honest with what could it be that is really impacting their sleep. So if stress is what's impacting their sleep, then it's finding a routine that is going to work. Now, for example, if we're looking at 3 elements of good sleep health or sleep hygiene, the first one that is going to really help your very stressed out CEO is light, exposure to light. The second one is noise. And the third one is safety. So let's take safety. Yeah. Wow. So let's take safety first, because the brain is such an associative machine. And so the bed really needs to be only for relationships and sleep, nothing else. So if your CEO has got a number of books on their bedside table about, you know, how to improve your productivity, how to improve, the brain already has an awareness that these are there. And so it's just going to carry on with the stress to the brain.
Right.
The bedroom really needs to be just for sleep. Knowing that you really want to work on not bringing the phone into the bedroom. Now, again, I know that is really, really difficult. But again, if we can work in manageable steps, and that might be, okay, so one night a week, I am not going to have the phone, I'm going to charge it outside. Nobody is that attached to their phone that they cannot have one night's sleep with it not being in the room. Or it might be that in the morning, you will give yourself 10 minutes before you go on your phone. So it's making all these small amounts of changes. Now, in order for us to sleep well and for that deep sleep to happen, the brain needs to come out of its sympathetic nervous system. And if your bedroom and your bed is associated with I have to do this and I have to do that, we've already activated the fight, fright, and flight.
Right.
So it's very hard for the brain to sleep. Whereas where we want to be really looking is how can we, in very small steps, improve the safety within our brain that we are starting off in that more of a relaxed central nervous system. So safety being the first one. And that's why, for example, when we go away on our first night away, we can lose up to 40% of our deep sleep. So again, you're really busy CEO, traveling for business, or even going on holiday. On that first night, 40% of your deep sleep can be lost. And that's primarily because the brain doesn't recognize this new environment and it perceives that environment as dangerous. So again, your sympathetic nervous system is activated and we're in the fight, fright, and flight.
You know what? I've heard that from so many high-level execs that when they go on vacation with families, and I've heard this from my dad as well, they cannot relax. They become even more stressed because they feel like they're away from their job, they're away from their work, and they have to be even more alert. And my dad, for example, doesn't know how to relax. I mean, he says that, he admits it. He says, I don't know how to relax, and he's just always, on holiday checking his phone, checking his emails on his laptop. How can you help with that? Any advice?
Well, it's about recognizing that the brain is incredible and it can all learn how to do certain things that is going to really improve the quality of their life. And, there's lots of discussions now around the blue zone and longevity. And we're going for quality, not quantity. Right. And if we can really help all of us understand that, okay, I would like to live to 100, but I want to be able to be really physically active. I want to enjoy, my partner and my children. I want to have these incredible conversations. And I want my brain to be healthy. That's where we really understand about how to make these changes. And these changes can be made. Mindfulness is so helpful. And I know, like, for example, Matthew Walker, one of the leading neuroscientists in the world, particularly when it comes to sleep, he was constantly being told about the benefits of mindfulness. But as he said, listen, I'm a hard-nosed neuroscientist. Mindfulness? No. But the research was so compelling that he had to look at the research.
Right.
And it really was showing us how the brain perceives certain environments. And it takes us out of that fight, fright, and flight, which means that our central nervous system, the inflammation is brought down, and our whole system is being activated in a positive way. So mindfulness is something really important, but it's got to be relevant to your father.
Yeah, sure.
But it's starting small and relevant to all of us.
Yeah. Okay, let's say, I'm laying in bed, I'm not able to sleep. Is there a quick fix?
Okay, so no, there are no quick fixes. However, what we need to recognize is our sleep begins from the minute we wake up in the morning. And if we do 3 things, it's really going to help us. Now, whatever order you do it in, but as long as we can do them. So the first thing that you're going to do, because remember, light, temperature, and sound, or noise rather, but light, expose your eyes and the brain to as much natural light as possible. So even if it's just that you go and stand on the balcony or stand in the garden, just for 5 minutes, that light will confirm with your brain the actual time it is, such as it is 6 a.m., not 6 p.m. Or it is 6 a.m., not 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is what the blue light from our screen is telling. It's tricking the brain and not giving it the accurate time. So the first thing that we do, just go outside on your balcony, and if you can't do that, just stand against the window. The second thing is to recognize that sleep is really dehydrating. And that's why jet lag is quite difficult, because of course, flying is very dehydrating, but sleep is dehydrating. So have some water. Now, the recommendations are about 600 to 900 mils of water.
Okay.
But I don't know. I can't do that much. I can do maybe 500.
Yeah.
And then I have something like a lemon and ginger tea.
Right. Same.
So that's good. So I'm still getting my
It's
water.
still water.
Your fluid, yeah. And then the third thing is, which is really, really important for somebody who doesn't do any exercise, sadly.
Are you talking about yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Same here, Julie. Same
But
here.
I found a way to help, and that is to do a couple of stretches in the morning. Now, what those stretches do, when we are doing these stretches, just 2 or 3, that's all, it signals to the brain to prepare for a certain quantity of the human growth hormone in the evening whilst you're sleeping.
Wow, morning stretches
So that's
will
why
help
the
you
morning,
sleep better.
yeah, those 3 things.
I never would have thought that. That's incredible. Okay, going back to the stressed CEOs.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people who are, I don't want to use the word addicted, but who rely perhaps on sleeping pills to get them through the night?
And actually we need to be very clear with the words, yes, they are addicted. And unfortunately, it's not understanding that the sleeping pills, they absolutely do not improve. In fact, they give a poorer quality of sleep. Your sleep is much more fragmented and you have less of the deep sleep, so it's far less restorative. And what it does is it allows you to fall asleep quickly, but your quality of sleep is much poorer.
Wow.
And what is very, very clear now, the research is so clear. The gold standard for insomnia is CBTI. So that's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. That's the most effective form of treatment for insomnia.
And what is that exactly?
So again, it's looking at behaviors. That's really what it's about. So again, recognizing that our brain is such an associative machine. Now, you said something really important before about, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. What is the quick fix? First thing is to recognize your sleep starts from the minute we wake up. When you are in that situation where you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't stay too long in your bed or tossing and turning, because again, if you stay in your bed too long, now that your bed, your sleep place, becomes a negative place, the best thing to do is to try a little. If it's not working, then you get up and you do something really, really boring but not stimulating. So light, keep the light right down, and be mindful about not going to the fridge, because if you open the fridge, then the lighting in the fridge, bright lighting, LED, your clock is continually thrown off. So just keep everything, and then when you're feeling really tired, then go back to bed. There's lots of really good apps that you can listen to fall asleep, but on airplane mode. Okay. There's a number of apps that you can use.
And something boring, like a boring task, like what? Can you read a book that's not related to business, for example, a novel or something like that? Obviously, staying away from crime / thrillers.
The content. So the content is really important.
Yeah.
And it might even be, the weather at the minute is beautiful. And so it might be just going and sitting either in your garden or on the balcony and just sitting, not doing anything.
Right.
And knowing that, okay, I'm not sleeping, but I am resting.
Right.
So giving yourself permission just to be where you are. Whereas if you think, gosh, I'm not sleeping, this is going to be really bad, I'm going to be so exhausted in the morning, you're then keeping that sympathetic nervous system activated. And then the next day, you can really look at how can I try and avoid what happened last night? And then using such things as, turning your phone, setting an alarm, half an hour before you go to bedtime. An hour would be the best, but if that's too much, 30 minutes before, to remind you, turn off all devices. Yeah. And then work towards then that going into your room, having that bedtime routine, and knowing that your room is a sanctuary. So it could be that your room might be too warm, and that is absolutely having an adverse effect on your sleep.
Colder weather, we spoke about this earlier, colder weather is actually better.
Much, much better for sleep. So you're looking at temperatures somewhere as cool as 19 or 63 to 65. That's the temperature that the body works best to support sleep. And, if you have a partner who can't sleep that cold, then
it's their problem, Julie.
No, no, not at all. There's always ways around it. There really is, and that's what our brains does best. Problem solvers. Let's problem solve.
True.
And you can get these chili pads that you can put on your side of the bed.
Okay.
And you can put them on half an hour before you go to bed, so you can turn it on, so you get into a cool bed, and therefore your whole thermostat is supporting your sleep, and yet your partner's not impacted at all. If your partner doesn't like the room being cool, paradoxically, you can do something like put on some woolen socks.
Right.
And that's because there's some cells within our extremities that when we keep them warm, it actually cools the core body temperature down.
Wow.
So that there are things that we can all do which aren't great big solutions, but working in small steps.
You know what, this is so fascinating, and I love sleep, and my friends make fun of me for it, and they're always like, Lubna, you know, how much sleep can you really, you know, like how much sleep do you really need? And I'm like, I do need a lot of sleep.
How much is a lot? What would you say is your sleep requirement?
So I would say a minimum of 8 hours is my sleep requirement. But you know, during the week, you're busy, you're stressed, you don't actually get those full 8 hours. Like personally, I don't. And then I try to make up for that over the weekend.
Which you can't.
Which I can't.
Yeah.
So,
because
what
we're almost looking at here is bulimic sleep.
Right.
Where we're going from not hardly any, but very little sleep during the week, and then masses at the weekend, which is also not healthy.
So should I make up for the sleep over the weekend, or should I continue waking up and sleeping at around the same time and try to maintain that?
That's one of the most important parts to us sleeping better. Now, interestingly, if we're looking at your really high levels exec, you know, who they will say to you, I can't sleep. I haven't got time to sleep for 7 or 9 hours, because it's not 8, it's 7 or 9 hours, just by pure maths.
Yeah.
So, but if the quality of their sleep is 6 and it's good quality sleep, that's what we're looking for. We're looking at completing all the sleep cycles and all the benefits of that full sleep cycle. So really focus on quality, not just quantity. And you were saying before about 8 hours. Now, we know that the adult sleep cycle is 90 minutes in duration, which means we are either a 7-hour sleeper or a 9-hour sleeper.
Right.
I think it sounds like you're a 9-hour sleeper.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'm a 7-hour sleeper, for example.
Okay.
So it's about knowing what my sleep need is and then working towards it. And again, if you don't get it that night, it's all right. How can I just give myself half an hour more tomorrow night? Or what can I do to improve the quality of my sleep? Such as, okay, I know that perhaps I might have a lighter meal tomorrow night. And that would be, you might have some grilled fish and some grilled vegetables, and therefore you only need a 2-hour break before you go to sleep. Now, the reason why this is really important about the timing of our meal is when we eat a meal too late into the evening, then it ramps up our core body temperature, and then it is in complete conflict with the melatonin.
Okay, I have a question for you. How do we know how many hours of sleep we actually need?
By how do we need an alarm clock? So, for example, my chronotype is that of an owl, which means my melatonin comes in later and leaves later. So I'm not a morning person at all.
Me neither, Julie, and I have to do a morning show every day.
Which is counterproductive to your actual biology, to your specific biology. Okay, so last week I was having to wake at 5:45 to get to an appointment, which I haven't seen 5:45 in a long time. But the night before, I had to be very conscious of just getting to bed for me half an hour early, which is still really hard. But doing all these things, such as having a lighter meal, really exposing myself to dimmed lighting, particularly around 4. So that's a good biohack.
Okay.
Exposure to lighting around 4 o'clock in the evening reduces the impact of the screen later. So can you see how there is definite ways around it? So I knew that, but that's my chronotype. Now, interestingly, I was really anxious and I set my alarm, and I was so anxious that I would but I woke before my alarm. So that was telling me that I had my 7 hours, I woke before the alarm, so I know I'm a 7-hour sleeper. If you are consistently requiring the alarm or pressing that, snooze button, I hesitated because I don't know about snooze buttons, in that it is the worst thing for your sleep. It is the worst.
Oh dear. Okay.
So that's why it wasn't there in my brain first. But yeah, so that's how you know.
Right. Okay. I could stay here all day chatting to you about sleep, Julie. One last thing. It's a special question from our producer, Hisham. Hisham, this one's for you. He says that he needs like 10 hours of sleep. How can he lessen that? Because he doesn't actually need 10 hours of sleep, right? How can he change that? Is it through those small biohacks like eating a lighter meal, making sure you don't consume too much light from your screen, not watching too much TV? What advice can you give Hisham?
If he feels he needs 10 hours, then that's telling you he's absolutely not getting enough sleep. So there's a very definite issue with the quality of his sleep.
Right.
So it's more about how can I improve the quality of my sleep. So looking at stimulants as well. Stimulants really impact our sleep. A cup of coffee, for example, contains about 100 milligrams of caffeine. And then 12 hours later, you have 12.5 milligrams still left in your system. So that's one cup of coffee. You then have a second one. Now we've got 25 grams of your coffee, 12 hours later, still left in your system.
Right.
So it's looking to see. Now, it's not that coffee could be disrupting, but we have slow and fast processes of caffeine. And we're all different, so it's about recognizing. So I know for me, for example, if I have coffee or caffeine after 2 o'clock, I know it impacts my sleep. So it's just having an awareness of what impacts you, because what impacts somebody else will not have the same impact.
Sure. One last thing about coffee.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the nappuccino?
Yes, certainly.
When coffee can actually help you go to sleep.
So where the nappuccino comes in is that, say you've got a really, really important brief that you feel that brain fog because you are tired. What will be really helpful is if you have a cup of coffee. Now it's got to be a decent cup of coffee, and you have a cup of coffee, and then you immediately go into a nap. And what that means is when you come out of the nap, because if we're looking at NASA, according to NASA, the perfect nap duration is 26 minutes.
Okay.
So, but if you have this nappuccino, when you come out of that nap at 20 minutes, then the caffeine is kicked in and you wake up really ready to go, and that fogginess is gone. So a nappuccino can really give you that burst of energy that you need, and it can also be really helpful with jet lag. It's how we use things. So there's nothing to say, no, you can't have that, no, you can't. We can't do that. We're adults.
I completely agree with you, and I was arguing about this with our boss Richard the other day. So Richard, if you're listening, there's an expert here to prove you wrong. So just saying, he doesn't like to drink coffee, and I was arguing that I can't live without coffee, or perhaps I choose not to live without coffee.
Just very quickly, because I know we're wrapping up, but coffee is actually a really incredible antioxidant. So it's not bad, but it's how we use it.
Yeah.
So 2 cups of coffee, you have that antioxidant impact, but after that, you're not. Now, the other thing is, I had one client who was really addicted to his coffee. So he said he was going to go cold turkey, which we shouldn't ever do, really. But anyway, he chose to. That wasn't working for him.
Yeah.
We looked at all these amazing teas, wasn't working. Then something, just showing you how old I am now, but I remember drinking a chicory root.
Okay.
Now this has been his savior, in that you can buy it now as a blend. So you can buy it the same as coffee.
Okay.
So you have the ritual of, in the French press, and in the morning when you wake up, which of course we don't have our first coffee until an hour and a half after we've woken, because otherwise that's not beneficial at all, and you've just wasted the benefit.
Oh, really?
So 1.5 hours after you have woken, then have your coffee. But he now is able to sit, because he loved having his coffee with his wife. That was their ritual in the morning.
Yeah.
And in this blend, And the best thing about this chicory blend, it's really good for his microbiome.
Nice.
So we can find ways. We've just got to look at what's going to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Julie, thank you so much. Always an incredible conversation with you.
You're welcome. And I just wish everyone a really good night's sleep. And if they don't get it tonight, it's okay. You can do better tomorrow.
You can do better, and you can also contact Julie and contact Nurture to Sleep to help you. So thank you, Julie, again. And please subscribe to Smashy TV to watch our podcasts, or listen to us on Spotify, Apple, and Khami, or wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie.
We didn't say